Hi there, welcome to Tom Hicks Vlogs, and today I'm going to be talking about diabetes and depression being linked in. Normally when I make my vlogs, they're usually here and there, different camera angles, different locations and so on. Today's one's going to be a little bit different because this is more of a serious approach that I wanted to highlight for all those that have either been affected by diabetes or are currently going through something related to it. So I'm type 1 diabetic and I'm insulin dependent, which means I've got to basically inject myself every day like a pincushion, which for some people can be a bit of a problem because they've either got a fear of needles, they don't know how to carb count, or the thought of putting insulin inside your body, which is technically, I would say foreign object, but our bodies don't make it anymore, so this type of insulin isn't obviously pumped out from another human. So anyway, before I ramble on too much, I've been type 1 diabetic for 2 years now. My weight has shifted up and down so many times, I pretty much have to buy new clothes every year, so usually a shirt can last me a couple of years, but this time round, nope, I've got to keep buying new clothes. Now the reason for that is the insulin I'm on at the moment, which is called Nova Rapid and Levemir, they pretty much mess about with my weight, and that comes a lot with diabetes. Your weight can fluctuate depending on everything from the amount of insulin you take, the amount of food you have. So if you have what's called a hypo, which is when your sugar levels go too far low, it can affect your intake because you just want to scoff more food, and the more often you have hypos, the more food you're going to scoff and you're going to put weight on a lot quicker. If you wanted to know a little bit more about diabetes, I will put a video in the description below to a video I did about my type 1 diabetes and my kit. So going back to the moral of it, diabetes and depression, you probably wouldn't think they go hand in hand with each other, and with a lot of disabilities or illnesses or diseases, there comes that stage in your life where you hit that brick wall and you don't know where else to go, you don't know what to do, and you don't know who to talk to or even who to trust if it gets that far. Now luckily for me, I'm engaged, so I've got a partner, and he's kind of helped me through a lot of things really, especially with diabetes. Living my life, my whole life actually, I'm 22 now, so being diagnosed just before turning 20 of type 1 diabetes, it was a complete shift from one life to the other. And thankfully, like I said, I had my partner with me to kind of help me through it, and he's helped me through every step of the way with diabetes because we both know how serious it is, and having someone there also does greatly help, especially when depression comes into it. Now, on my first night of being diagnosed, when I was in the hospital, because I was at quite a late stage of diagnosis, I had that many ketones in my body, which is basically the acid building up in your body basically and making your blood so thick because of all the sugar that can't escape your system. There was that much going on in my body at the time. I was put into I wasn't put into the early stages, but I was going into the early stages of a heart attack, so I had to get to hospital quite quickly. And everything was a blur for that night, and once I regained my consciousness a few days later, because I was drifting in and out for a good 2-3 days, and once I regained my consciousness again, it kind of hit me then, when the nurses came over and explained to me, look, this is what you've got, this is what you've got to do, and if you don't do it, then you more than likely are going to die. And it kind of hit me right there and then. It wasn't until later that evening that I'd actually got onto my iPad and I FaceTimed my partner and said, look, I don't know what to do, because diabetes for me, I thought that was the end of it. I thought I couldn't touch sugar, I couldn't touch any kind of drinks, I couldn't eat much food, I couldn't do anything. I thought there was going to be so much of a problem, especially with jobs as well. And it kind of hit me that night, and I burst out into tears. So I was on the phone and I said to him, look, if you did want to leave me, I totally understand why you'd want to leave me, because who would want to be with someone with diabetes anyway? That's the outlook I had on it. I thought, right, I'm effectively a broken toy now, so why would you want to be with me? But he didn't think that way. He actually thought in a positive way, and he told me he would be with me every step of the way, and he'd help me through this kind of thing. And thankfully he's been there for me from the moments I was put into hospital, to how thin I was, to helping me with hypos, to helping me with hypers, grabbing my insulin when I can't do so, injecting me when I'm too weak to do so. Anything like that, he's always been there to help me with. And the first few months of diabetes was the hardest for me, because you have to learn a lot and very quick. You have to learn how to carb count, you have to learn how much sugar intake goes into each unit of your insulin, so your carb to insulin ratio you have to work out manually. So even though your body's going through a tough time, up here is too, and you kind of feel isolated, especially if you're the only one in your family that's got type 1 diabetes. You can feel quite lonely, and I guess it's only when you sit there and stop for a moment and take it all in, do you actually realise how much it affects you. And there are many nights where I thought to myself, and being completely honest, I've not told anyone this, but there have been many times where I stayed up at night time and thought, is there any point of me living anymore? I thought, if I can't master this in 3 months, how am I going to manage my life? How am I going to manage three years? How am I going to manage 30 years? If there's never going to be a cure, I'm permanently like this. And it hit me. There were many times where I felt like I needed to, I wouldn't say, that's the best way to put it. There were many times I wanted to end my life, but I didn't do so. And I've spoken openly with my partner about this and no one else about this kind of thing and why I felt like that. It really put me in a dark place. And sometimes you need to admit that you need to talk to someone. You need your friends and family, even though you probably won't think they're there to help you. They are. The best thing you can have to help you and guide you through these difficult stages, especially depression with your diabetes alongside, is friends and family. Don't ever think you're alone. There are people local in your house. There are probably support groups nearby. There are forums online, on diabetes pages, and there are also people you can talk to on social media. You can phone them up, you can talk to them on Twitter, you can even add friends on groups on Facebook to do with that kind of thing. And that's what I did. I was in and out of jobs for a while with my diabetes, and I took a lot of time off. I took around 4 or 5 months off work to try and get around how diabetes worked. And throughout that time, I managed to speak to a lot of people online. I spoke to people in support groups, and I really got to know and feel that I was actually part of another community. I didn't feel alone. This dark grey cloud which was pushing me down kind of crumbled away. It was almost like a cookie, if you wish. It started to crumble up, and you could feel it. The heavy burden on your chest and the heavy shoulders. It suddenly went. My health started to get better. I started to get back in shape again. My voice was a lot better anyway. The bags under my eyes started to go. Everything was going really well. Everything was going great. I was in a job. I was back on track. I went to regular meetings. I felt on top of the world, and I still do now. I still feel great. I feel lucky and happy that I've been able to kind of kick depression right in the arse and say, nope, you're not taking over my life. Because the way I look at diabetes is, it's not a disability, it's a responsibility. And knowing you can control your diabetes is given me the strength, and it should give you the strength to say, if you can master this and keep control of this, you can pretty much do anything. And I would say mastering diabetes as a whole is a great pathway for you to say you have a lot of potential. If you can master something which everyone else's bodies does automatically, what's stopping you there? You have limitless possibilities. You can keep going, exploring these new avenues, learning new skills, meeting new people, traveling the world, whatever it is you want to do, you can do it.